To be here.
It's time, by the way.
It's time. You have a cat on your shoulder, and welcome. Hopefully, and a dragon. We are blessed by everything this evening. How is everybody? I'm still playing around with my setup as usual, so let me know if you can hear me and hear Yan.
Hi.
Oh, you're loud. I'm going to turn you down ever so slightly by a couple of decibels.
Oh, good. Excellent. Hello, everybody. Happy 2021.
How are you all doing? I hope you've all had a fantastic break over Christmas or however you celebrated it, and the new year has rolled in. Anybody missing 2020 yet?
I really hope not. It's a bad sign.
So yes,
So, yeah,
we're fully
hopefully everyone
into
can
the
hear
new
me.
year, and we're back. We're back in our respective offices in work mode rather than play mode. Although we will talk about some of the fun that we've had over the Christmas break.
And some of the fun we've been talking about, because we've been having interesting gameplay discussions in the background.
Yes, very much so. So give us a shout, say hello, and where should we start today?
Jan's a little echoey. I am a little echoey.
You know why he's echoey? Because I don't have headphones on, because I'm a professional.
I mean, yes. Also,
Oh,
because
dear.
I'm in this cavern.
Yeah, so give me a second to fiddle with settings, and one day I'll get this right. I'm going to go even more red now. I'm so embarrassed by my failure to...
Hopefully, the settings he's fiddling with are not to do with this show to marvelous, but we never know.
No, it's
Hello,
merely...
Kyle. Hello, Bit Gamey. Hello, Jessica. I hope everybody's feeling well and has had a wonderful beginning of 2021. And that 2021, no matter how it went for you, is way better than 2020, no matter how it went for you.
Hey, I would have probably solved the echo there. I am back. It turned out my 5-meter headphone cable doesn't really stretch out to 5 meters when it's tangled around several bits of stuff. Oh, nice. It streams that bit as well. Well, I've switched it over now. There we go. It's disappeared. Perfect. Yeah. It was absolutely fantastic. It's a game that, after about 5 hours of playing, you realise that you've just scratched the surface of how you can play this game. There are no Yan audio, but he comes under desktop audio. Da-da-da-da. Say something again, Yan.
I'm a little teapot covered in jam. This
He'll...
is a song that was written by me.
Yan. Okay, cool. So we got you back. Do you want to run past that again, and we'll pretend nothing happened? This is...
Well, we
that's
played
the
Twilight
one.
Imperium 4th edition. Now, for those of you who don't know, Twilight Imperium is a really interesting game from a game design point of view. There's a fascinating documentary on it by my favorite website, Shut Up, Sit Down, who are a board game review site, a community site. They did a documentary called Space Lions. And
I remember seeing that.
Twilight Imperium is a space opera simulator, and it's absolutely epic. Everything about the thing is epic. It takes hours. We played for 7 hours, and we got halfway through the game. And we went to play again, but one of our players couldn't make it the second game, so we've had to postpone it. But Mikey, what were your impressions of Twilight Imperium 4th edition?
I like that. So, yeah, there we go. 4. It was brilliant. So, as I was starting to say before we realised Yan didn't exist for a moment, it's a very weird game in the way that you think you've got it and you've not, because there's so much more you can do. The whole point of the game is not to necessarily kill off everybody on the board, which might be a standard strategy you could do on like a computer Everspace or something
Right.
along those lines. Those ones where you just conquer the galaxy. So you do start off by doing that. You start by capturing territory, but that phase doesn't last that long before you bump up to someone else who's playing. And the whole point of the game is to get some victory points, and there are several ways you can get victory points. So, for instance, there was one point in the game where I really didn't want to attack Yan, but one of my secret ways of getting a victory
Objectives.
point was
Yeah.
to attack someone who was in the lead with victory points. And Yan just happened to be in the lead with victory points. If it had been anybody else on the board, it'd have been them.
And I had left a planet undefended, so Mikey just sort of turned up and went, "Hello, this is mine now." And then
Pretty
he ran
much.
away when I came back, so we didn't have any further scuffles. It is kind of fascinating though, because it leans into this asymmetrical design, which is always interesting. Like when you get it right, it works really well, and when you get it wrong, it's just unplayable. Or you have one side that is just better than everyone else. But each player plays an alien species.
Yeah.
So I was playing basically living flames inside bronze suits. It's all very steampunk. And Sam was playing these strange reptilian humanoids who have ships that blow up and take people with them. Like their whole thing appears to be, we make really bad ships, as far as I can see. And Mikey was
true.
the humans, and Jessica was the glorious purple space turtles, the Kingdom of Ksha, who had an amazing power. But each race have their own abilities. So my abilities are: I start with a War Sun, which is not a Death Star. Everyone else has to research them, but I start with one.
A
But I don't
little
start with
bit
as many
overpowered early
ground troops.
game.
Well, I don't have any ground troops to start with. Like I have one or two.
Yeah.
So I've got this weird dichotomy. But later on, I can go into supernovas and no one else can. And I can turn them into factories. Meanwhile, Mikey doesn't get any special technologies, but he has incredible advantages with infantries. Humans breed like rabbits. He just gets infantry for free every turn. Meanwhile, the glorious purple space turtles have this ability that every time there's a diplomatic phase, they could just claim an unoccupied planet adjacent to their borders. And so what was happening is every turn, Jess would take the diplomacy thing, and essentially it was this Galactic Council would meet, and the Kingdom of Shah space turtles would say, "It's very important, and we all remember this one's mine, that we should all act as a community." Just like snag, snag, snag.
It's very true. Very true.
It's very interesting because everyone's playing a very different thing, and after the first few hours, you realize each player has a completely different view of the board, and it really is like dealing with alien species, which I was very impressed by.
One of the things that I've played through recently, I've mentioned it over on the Discord as well, is the fact that when you buy a game on Steam, it's going to be a bit of a rant session for me here. You then need to authenticate it with either Ubisoft or Microsoft or something other soft.
Origin.
Oh, if you got to have the Rockstar launcher if you've got Red Dead Redemption, and it's starting to really be annoying. And it was very annoying because I put time aside to play some games over the holidays, and so I launched Far Cry 5 for the first time. The next thing I know, I'm being asked to sign into the Ubisoft launcher. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Type in my credentials, and I couldn't get on.
Yeah.
It turns out the service was down. So what do you do when you've got games that you can't play because the service is down and you want to play them offline?
Go out and have a real life because there's a pandemic, so he can't.
Yeah, I like my house. But anyway, I got into play. So I've recently played Far Cry 5, Noita, which is really awesome. Mindustry, which is kind of a tower defense. Yeah, and it's multiplayer as well, and you just join in and you help build up. So that was a lot of fun. I played that with my daughter. She didn't quite get it, but it was still fun to watch her putting tracks, taking ore all over the place to the wrong places. But she thought you had to take ore to the buildings you were building, which is actually quite intelligent. But no, you have to take. Yeah, you have to take it to your central hub. And I play State of Decay 2 as well. I really like my zombie things. But in Far Cry 5, I'm imagining this big open world. The last one I properly played, I've obviously played the original Far Cry, which is just a shooter, really. And I played the other ones on and off, and I played quite a bit of Far Cry 4. So I knew roughly what I was expecting. One of the great things that they did was they took the mick out of themselves. Very early on, you climb a tower, and the guy in the radio says, "Oh, don't worry, we're not going to make you climb towers all over the map," which I chuckled at.
Especially Ubisoft, who are
Yes.
really bad at that.
It's like almost every game, climb a tower,
It's like, oh,
survive.
this is a thing we added in the original Assassin's Creed back in 2008, 2009 that really worked. Let's put it in every single game.
Really, yeah. Well, it's obviously a formula that works, so kudos for sticking to it. But something new,
No.
please. Um, but one of the things in
Like
Far
Watch
Cry,
Dogs, it makes no sense. You're a futuristic hacker, and in order to unveil more of the city, you don't use your magic iPhone that can hack everything.
yeah,
You go
right,
climb a tower. Like, I've got Google Maps right here on my iPhone because I'm a hacker. But
yeah. But no, you have to climb a tower. So one of
yeah,
the things that grabbed me in Far Cry is I thought it had a very strong opening. I thought, oh, yeah, I'm gonna like this. And then I'm not going to put any big spoilers here because it's right at the very beginning of the game anyway, and the game's like 2 years old now. I was amazed by the graphics. I thought the cutscenes were spot on, and the graphics are really, really nice. I get into the game, I'm thinking, oh yeah, big open world, I can choose my path, my direction. I'm just thinking to myself, oh, this is going really well. It's also one of those games which I've not played in a while where, and it's a bit graphic here, but if you shoot someone in the head, they actually die, rather than taking some random amount of damage. But anyway, there's this car chase early on. You get in a car and you're escaping, and then the game's on rails. And the dude driving is a bad driver. He takes some really weird turns. And I like playing games on the hardest setting, just to get going. So I'm owning it for the first 45 minutes. I get in this 5 minute car journey, and I'm reloading every 30 seconds to 4.5 minutes because of a lucky shot the enemy got in. And I just couldn't, for the life of me, get through it. And I was just
yeah.
so frustrated because all of that open world and freedom that you kind of been promised for the game, nope, it's gone. Gone for this
Yeah.
bit. You're on rails. And you had a
And
similar experience in Cyberpunk, didn't you?
I did. And hello, Roderick, and hello, Chris.
Hi, guys.
I actually had to stop playing Cyberpunk because it made me want to play an open world game, and I realized it didn't make me want to play this one. So Cyberpunk, I was having fun, and right at the beginning, you meet this character who
Mm,
you're supposed to develop this bond with, and rather than just say, "Okay, you've developed a bond," they show you a montage, and the montage is brilliant. It's really well done. Like it's just well directed. I'm thinking, okay, well, if that's the rate of a cutscene, like 60 to 90 seconds of really entertaining, well done, like character building stuff, I'm fine with it. No, 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 no. Here is a half-hour interactive cutscene. In other words, a flashback or a plot development that you have to walk through and make very occasional choices. So you can't just leave it alone. You can't skip it. You have to do it. You can't even save it and come back to it. It won't let you save until you finish. If you quit the game, you have to redo the whole thing. I did one of these, and it irritated the poop out of me. But it's like, okay, I'll get back to the game. It's fine. I don't really feel like this. I have any impact on this city. The cops lose interest the moment I turn the corner, even if I've just stolen their police car.
yep.
Fine. When I get the second one of these, and I find myself skipping the dialogue just so I can get through this 40-minute cutscene, and then I realize, okay, I don't actually know what the plot of this game is anymore.
Because
I'm
you
literally
skipped
just
through
heading
the
to waypoints
cutscene.
because I don't care enough about this thing. It's like,
Yeah.
let's play something else. So I took the plunge and I got Red Dead Redemption 2. I have mixed feelings on GTA 5. I think Rockstar make incredible games, really detailed, lots of
Yeah.
fun. Um, GTA has been getting. I was fine with GTA 5 until there was a scene where I, as the psychopath, have to actively torture a man and I actually have to take part in it. And if you don't do it, you just can't continue with the plot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's supposed to be funny and all the rest of it. It's really bloody with lots of sound effects. It's like, I'm actually not into this. Um, Red Dead Redemption 2 doesn't lean into that. It leans into the actual what it is to be an outlaw. And I realize their essential experience seems to be let's let you live the Wild West, the last few years of the Wild West. I mean, that's the whole point of the plot, that you're the last of the great outlaws. And what that means is the world has to be as detailed as possible. The mist in the morning, the fact that, I needed some feathers to upgrade some arrows, so I killed a bunch of turkeys and just left their corpses there. I came back 2 minutes later, and there's a bunch of pigs which are luring in the alligators. Like, just really good systemic play. Excellent characters, excellent writing. It's not zany and wacky in the same way that Grand Theft Auto often is, but it has very funny moments. There are moments
Yeah,
that actually made
definitely.
me laugh hysterically. And they're often just to do with just the interaction between characters. So it was interesting to see a really well built open world game that for me, Cyberpunk just wasn't. Cyberpunk is entertaining, but it doesn't seem to understand its own world in the way that Red Dead Redemption 2 does. There's none of this. So, I'm talking about what it is to be the last generation of Wild West cowboys. And you've got this ongoing theme about encroaching civilization and the way the city deals with. And when you first get to a big city, the fact that all the kids are laughing at you and everyone's commenting on how you dress, and suddenly this world that you'd like this big bad wolf in, didn't swear, and you're a laughing stock and no one's taking you seriously, and like kids are stealing from you, and you can't go around beating kids up in front of cops. Like and there are cops everywhere. Like, you're just not prepared for this world. That's understanding the setting and the characters in a way that in Cyberpunk 2077, they don't seem to understand the genre of cyberpunk. They don't understand like the commodification of the self, the commodification of sexuality, the stripping away of humanity until you get cyberpsychosis. Like, these are plot elements, but they don't seem to understand their own setting as well. That was me going very academic for a minute.
No, that's fine. And I think one of the biggest things with that particular game is it was hyped up beyond what it could have
The
achieved.
greatest ever
Yeah.
open world game. It's the hype. There was this wonderful moment where I pressed the wrong button. I walk into a gun shop, and I meant to try and you use right click on the PC to focus on the guy, and I meant to press the button that says buy. I want to buy a new gun. I accidentally do the thing that draws my weapon. So I'm pointing a pistol at a man in the Wild West in a gun shop, and he just goes, "You might want to rethink that, son." I think, well, what
Yeah.
happens if I try and rob a man in a gun shop? And do you know what happens if you try and rob a man in a gun shop?
He's better at using
You
his gun than you.
die. Like, the cop behind me shot me in the head. It was just awful, but it was really immersive. It was brilliant.
Yeah, one of the things with talking about buggy games.
Mm,
So very interestingly, and I remember reading about this when State of Decay 2 came out. So I'm walking along, exploring the wilderness, and I step onto a rock, and I'm kind of, as I'm transitioning, and it wasn't a steep rock that you wouldn't be able to climb normally. It's just a gentle slope that goes over. And during that transition from the ground to the rock, my character just gets stuck in a half sort of jump pose and keeps jerking
mm,
backwards and forwards. And it turns out instead of fixing the bugs or the root cause of whatever that was, they incorporated into the menu system. Just go back a little, which obviously, and it has a cooldown on it. So if you get stuck and then stuck again within a very short period, you can't
yeah.
undo it again. But that's a very interesting mechanic because obviously it can also be abused for gameplay decisions. You go,
Mm,
oh, perhaps I shouldn't have done that. Undo, and on its difficult settings, it is quite challenging. But yeah,
yep.
I found that very interesting that they're aware of a bug, and instead of fixing it, they find
They work around.
they add a new feature to help you out with
Yeah. One moment. I'm just going to mute myself because Is Cat is seen the song of his people.
that. Oh bless. So, what else are we up to? It's 2021 now. And
Well, I've gone back and re-recorded the vast majority of what I've already got for Canopy Cars, and it's actually because Chris found the mistake I'd made early on. I was like, well, I could keep recording from this point, but actually, this is such a fundamental Like, this is just going to make things so much easier for people if I just redo it.
yeah,
So I've gone and recorded most of those videos. I was halfway through editing what I had, and then I had this awful resolve bug that just undid the whole day's work. So I've got to go redo those and re-upload them. Um, so Canopy Cars is kind of being polished up so it can go live.
Nice.
We did hear back from GodoCon, who said, "Well, unfortunately, we've got too many people who want to do things, and we'd rather do like things about the engine rather than brand new games. So we're not going to be presenting at GodoCon this year. However, I will be attending virtually because it's free, as
Yeah.
you should."
Yes, I'm going to try and be part of BlenderCon 21. So
That's 20.
yeah, this is 20. This was last year's. That was all virtual. So hopefully, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen over the next few
Let me go check
weeks,
on this
months,
cat.
and
Be right
years.
back.
That's fine. So one thing, both Jan and I are in the UK, and we've got this tier system over here that's come in, and everybody's got into the highest tier. They created a new tier over December called Tier 4, which is almost like full lockdown. But earlier on today, I'm just catching everybody up on the sort of like our lockdown situation over here, Jan, just so you
By
know.
the way, do you like the damage Caboodle has done to my chair?
It's very artistic.
It's amazing. It looks like a wild animal.
So yeah, I was just saying that we're all in, both you and I are both in Tier 4 at the moment, which is almost full lockdown. But kids are still going back to school in various
Kind of, maybe. We're not sure.
but what happened earlier on today in the UK is that Scotland decided to go into full lockdown. And it's quite common that England will follow suit. Maybe
Oh, there's
even maybe even as we're speaking, I don't know. That Boris's announcement at 8 p.m. Thanks there, Bit Gaming. So yeah, at 8 p.m. we'll know a little more. So in terms of, I'm going to segue into what I'm doing in a second with the Blender stuff, the new Blender course coming out. Obviously, if I have my kids at home, it there'll be a little
it
bit of
massively shifts what you can do.
it massively shift what I can do, but I will be trying to. If it does happen, I'll switch into working for over the night if I
Well,
can.
we had this very big meeting last week, you and I, where we were sort of discussing what we're going to do over the next week. And Mikey was like all ready for it and all gung ho, and he's rested, he's ready to go. He's going, I'm going to eat these 2 ships, all the rest of it. And then, oh, right, I've got the kids. So we had the kids for the week, which radically changes how much time you actually sit down and just work without distraction.
Daddy, can I have this game? Okay, now multiply that by the 5 children in this house. I love them all dearly.
Mm.
So yeah, Boris's announcements at 8 p.m. And I want to tune into that because that's going to be
Can I make, this is related to the Boris announcement, can I make a recommendation of a thing to watch on Netflix, which is Death to 2020?
Is that a thing?
It's a thing. It's you know those retrospectives of a year? It's like a fast retrospective of the year with like Samuel L. Jackson as a reporter and Hugh Grant as a historian.
Right.
And it's hysterically funny. But they talk about the time when Boris Johnson last year got infected by COVID, and then it goes to the historian played by Hugh Grant who's saying, this was, of course, quite a big shock to everyone in Britain. I mean, it's quite terrible. The idea that the prime minister might have to be replaced with someone less competent, and there just isn't anyone less competent unless we have some sort of sock as prime minister. It's a little more political than I tend to go on this channel, but made me laugh.
Yes. So one of the things that I will be trying is I'm using it this evening. I'm using the RTX voice noise cancelling stuff. So what I will try, and I'd love feedback on this as the videos come out, is whether or not the audio quality is as good as it is normally. It will be different because the noise cancellation always does little things like it can suddenly clip in quite harshly if you're breathing in quite close to the mic. And don't breathe out close to mic. Wear a mask. So I'll be trying that, but I'll also be putting the noise cancellation on. Nice. Oh, dear. Carry on my headphones. It's not just the noise, because a lot of the time the kids make noise that would be absolutely fine on most videos, like a bang here or there. You wouldn't
Yeah.
notice the screaming and things like that. Obviously, that's another story. But one of the things I have noticed is that I get distracted by that
Mm.
and worry it's on the recording.
Well, that's why I had to go deal with this cat, because I could see he's not actually triggering Discord. Like, the noise cancellation is dealing with it.
Yeah.
But all I can hear for the first half hour of our chat is like constantly. And that's a little distracting. That's right.
Oh,
He
it's
took a
by
bit.
the Black Mirror peeps. Now I'm trying to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
Kareen into Black Mirror. I think I've watched the first 3.5 series.
It's very funny. And I mean, yeah, and just how much went wrong in that year. Like,
It was definitely an interesting year. I mean, I was on Blender Nest, which if you've not heard of, go check them out. Blender Nest on YouTube. There, it's like a group of Blender people. Curtis Holt, CG Matters on there sometimes, and a load of other people. All it varies from week to week. But we were talking about 2020 and what your biggest achievements were and things like that.
surviving.
Surviving is obviously one of them. But I've slept since then. I've had the chance to for that thought to dwell, and I realised that I got a lot of things done, but they weren't necessarily. It was a very productive year, but it wasn't necessarily what I'd have naturally chosen to be productive. So for the for the second 3 months, I was a home educator for the children, and then we released a couple of courses, and then
Mhm.
the penny course as well, and so there ended up being loads and loads of stuff that was done, but it wasn't necessarily what I had planned to do. So I kind of had a mini celebration in my head because I was like, actually, it was a really productive year, despite or in spite of everything else going on
Well, 2021 is
around.
going to be even more productive, because I'm going to try and convince you to make a giant AAA open world game with just the two of us.
Sure.
Yep.
I'm in for it.
Go, go, go.
And one thing that I've often realised about myself is I over promise to myself or overthink I can do more in the short term, but actually you end up getting tons done in the long term. That's kind of what that introspection has allowed me to do, is to work out, actually, I think I didn't get much done, but when you zoom out, suddenly you can see the results are worth it.
Yep.
Thank you for finding that. This is brilliant.
Wait, what? What did we find?
Big Gamey's got the Blender Nest channel there.
See? I
Yes,
don't see it.
he's posted it in the chat.
No.
Oh,
You might have to accept it because it's not showing to me.
oh, maybe it's one of those things. Pin message. No,
Or is
it's
it
not.
in the Discord?
No, it's in the live chat. You know
I
what?
don't see it. It goes bit gamey, la la la, yeah,
You know what?
saying,
I'll
oh, I was
just repeat
watching.
that.
Well, there it is. There it is. Fine.
Yeah, I don't see any admin on that, which is interesting. So thank you. I'll put user in time. No, hide user. No. So no, it doesn't actually give me an option there. But there you go. That's the Blender Nest channel. Thanks for tagging it. And
Mhm.
so definitely worth a check out. We discuss all types of stuff. It's more like these can go into talking about games or talking about production or talking about other things around the Blender sphere.
Mhm.
Lots of cool things on there. So the plan for me, with notwithstanding whatever is coming up, I won't give any exact timescales at the moment. But the plan for me at the moment is to first focus on the first section, which is going to be completely free for everybody. If you've got lifetime access, you will get it. It will just appear on your lifetime access as the first section. We're going to build things out in sections, like micro courses, and the reason for that, if you've not heard before, is simply that so if someone's already done modeling and they just want to learn more about texturing, they can go down that route if they want to, which I think is a great idea, rather than someone buying a 40-hour course, and which is also an option. It will all be bundled together I'm saying 40, but it will be as long as it is, this massive course with everything in it, and finding it difficult to find things. At least now they're in more logical chapters, and
Right.
we'll go through the standard pipeline. So we'll start with modeling, we'll move on to unwrapping, then texturing, And then some of the other things Blender can do. So it won't be just game focused. There'll be a big emphasis on game asset creation, because
Mhm.
obviously that's a very useful skill to have. But also Blender can do so much more. So it's useful to know that you can do things procedurally, for instance, with textures, which you could do in other game engines, but it's quite computationally heavy. So doing it offline, then baking those textures down and using those new textures are a way, or is a way of doing it. And of course, though it won't be covered in this course, if you've UV unwrapped your models and you've got to the texturing stage, then you can export your model into Quixel's Mixer or Adobe Substance Painter, or even a Photoshop or that equivalent program, and manually paint on them if that's your choice. So there'll be lots to cover in there, and I'm quite excited. It'll be coming soon.
I think Substance Painter is a nice little segue. We should talk about the Mag Racer stuff.
Yes, so Jan and I had an interesting discovery earlier on today.
Yes, so we had Mikey redid the Delta, and he did it in a way that he got rid of the grill at the back and massively lowered the polygon count, which will really help
Yeah,
performance and all the rest of it. And then I load it up, and it's like, what's a couple of little errors to fix? Like mirroring is left on, that's an easy fix.
yeah.
And it's looking a lot cleaner, but the smoothing is all wrong. Like the things that look like flat surfaces are sort of bubbling out and inverting and doing weird things. And Mikey's looking at it, it's like, no, that's a flat surface. It's like, but I don't think it is. No, it is. So, Mikey, what was the solution in the end?
So it's very interesting. I will load up Blender because I've actually got the file in front of me here, and I can do a pretty much live demonstration. Although loading up Blender, there you go, misplaced my screen. So if I switch over to this, I think, and can you say something, Jan, quickly?
I'm a little
Okay, so
debugger.
so this is where we are with it at the moment, and I've got a bevel modifier on there to make the edges look really nice, as you would do. What I also had on here is what's called a weighted normal. With that on there, when we were exporting, the back of the craft looked. Actually, I think I can simulate it here by just turning off. No, even with even with smooth shading turned off. Sorry, on the back here, it wasn't doing it. Okay, I can't recreate it in Blender. It just won't allow me to recreate the mess. But basically, with the weighted normal on, what was happening at the back here? Oh,
Ooh.
my computer just made a funny sound. I hope that wasn't something unplugging. Yeah, at the back here, it was all warped and distorted. In fact, I can show this very quickly by exporting as an FBX because we're going in there, and I'm not going to overwrite the one that Jan wants to use. So this is
Well, you can,
Delta.
because we're going to make some more changes anyway.
This is true. Yeah, no, I want to compare them side by side quickly. So if I go ahead, I think everything here, yeah. So everything there is fine. And then if I go over into Substance Painter, this is correct. You can see at the back here that this particular model it's got all the smoothing in the right place. It's got harsh lines where it needs to be. So this is all flat. This is what it should have looked like.
Mm.
However, and I still need to work out why it wasn't doing that. It was
Well,
looking.
I think we actually have a screenshot of that somewhere.
There we go. It was coming through to Jan all like this. So there's obviously something with the weighted normal modifier when it's being applied
Mm.
doesn't apply, and obviously that we can't work with that. It's made the back of the craft look
Well, especially
absolutely.
if that's the thing the player's going to see if they pick this
Oh,
craft.
that is very true. And not only that, of course, looking at the rest of the craft, you can see here that just looks bad. It's bad shading, full stop. And
Mm.
just as a quick contrast back there,
But
going
it's
back,
interesting because that wouldn't come up. Also, there's something wrong going on with that. Oh no, we changed the material, didn't we?
yeah,
There's something. It's very easy to make a model and think, okay, this looks good. I'll just export it. You must test it before you call that final. Like
yeah,
it takes
totally.
us going back and forth 3 or 4 times before we can even identify where the problem is, let alone finding the fix. Like when you're making these games, don't cut that corner.
Yeah, totally. and it was only where and I that teeth back in. But I would really recommend teaming up with someone,
Mm,
anyone, just to test out your models. If they're making a game and you want to help out with it, dive in there and help them out, because it's this back and forth that enables Jan and I to have this deep and better understanding of all of this. The fact that
very much so.
I wouldn't have known that. I'd have just carried on producing because it looks right in Blender. It looks right in Windows as well.
And
It
my first impulse when I saw it was, well, I'll just work around it. It was like, no, let's actually figure out what the problem is here.
Yeah, it's very important. So in Windows, if you didn't know, I think you can get an add-on in both Linux and uh, what's that other one, Mac OS, which I don't use that often anymore. But if I switch back over to this here, Windows will open up 3D objects, and you can see here. Yes, it looks bright and colourful. This is just to make it easy to identify materials, and you can
We have a
see
question from Melicon, by the way. Are you using Mark Sharp or Bevels?
both.
That might be the problem.
It might be the problem. He may have a bit more information for us there. So this is Windows Viewer for it, and you can see quite clearly, even though it's quite a bold color, that it doesn't have any of these issues that Substance Painter has. So you can test it in another program, but I wasn't testing it in Substance Painter. I was quickly opening up and just eyeballing the model. Does it look how I expect it to look on export? Yes, it looks fine outside. But of
Mm.
course, if it's not working in Substance Painter, Jan's going to have a bad time. It's as simple as that. So yes, I am using Mark Sharp, and I am using the bevel modifier is set to use weightings rather than just angles.
Yep. I have to give Yitzhak some attention. Hi,
Before
buddy.
before he kills the world.
He's just very like, why? Because I'm doing a stream.
Do you not understand this? I will have more information soon. I presume that means Melicon's going to go off and play.
Yep. But yeah, we have plans for these. And while talking about this, we ended up putting in a few extra details in the Delta that I think will look really good. Like that little vent on the side is now going to be much more pronounced, the different materials, so we can make it look more mechanical or more engine-y.
Yes, so this vent here, we've actually separated it out, as you can see here, because the modifiers are turned off. In fact, I'll get rid of the weighted normal. And we're exploring things at the moment, like can we animate it so that as the craft picks up speed, this comes out somehow?
Mm.
Does it come out like this? Does it fold up, perhaps? Like, or is this going to look horrible? A little bit. But is it going to fold up like that as the player revs up? So we can have the craft looking more dynamic and giving the player some extra feedback as to what it is they're doing. But we
Yep.
also have to be careful, because if I go and start putting more articulated pieces on, we run into, and very quickly we run into a polygon issue again.
Yep.
So
Which is also the move of a dead parrot.
polygon, nice.
Oh, Mikey.
Yeah.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Little old lady.
Little old lady who?
I didn't know you could yodel.
Very pleased with yourself, aren't you, Jan?
So please yourself.
I think we should score Jan on his joke.
Marks out of 10, I'd give him one.
Nice. So yes, you're working on Canopy Cars,
Mhm.
Facepalm. Exactly, Jessica. Exactly. So yeah, I will be focused on Blender stuff for a bit. Jan is focused on Canopy Cars.
After which, I want to look into doing a quick introduction to Substance Painter. I'm not going to make it a huge, big course because it's not free software, which is what we tend to be focused on.
Mm.
And I do want to play around with the nightly build of God of 4 at some point soon because there's some really cool stuff happening there.
Yeah. Oh, you know, one of the things that that I find really interesting is that Jan and I use Substance Painter differently.
Right. Right, because we did that thing a couple of weeks back where you were like, Mikey was examining the workflow using material IDs. He's like, I'll just show, I'll get it going and show you, and we'll see if it's worth using. So it's like, okay, fine, let's try it out.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get it to work, and I hadn't had much sleep, and I hadn't had enough coffee, and I was quite grumpy. And I was apologizing to Mikey. He's like, I'm quite grumpy. But after an hour, it's like,
Yeah.
I can barely get this working. Show me. And he showed me. It's like, I don't even recognize your desktop, like your workspace. Everything's in a different place. He's like, yeah, but you use control and drag it. It's like, I didn't even know you could do that. Yeah, we use Substance Painter completely differently.
Which
It is fascinating.
and I suppose that's no different from two people picking up Blender and
Mhm.
having a specific way that they would make a particular model. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if you get to the end result that you want. That's absolutely brilliant. But it is interesting, and I learnt a lot by watching Jan's workflow, and that's one of the other things that I'd happily encourage people to do is to
It was interesting because we're building Mag Racer with me doing the texturing, which means we kind of have to use the workflow that I'm fastest with,
yes,
which ended up meaning we don't use material ID specifically because I end up with so many layers on
yeah,
each craft
definitely.
that I can't find what I'm looking for. So
Hmm.
it's easier for me to separate them out into different materials and then combine them afterwards.
Yeah, and material IDs, the reason why I've been exploring that lots is simply because not all programs accept multiple
Mhm.
materials. Substance doesn't accept Substance, sorry, does accept multiple materials. But if you wanted to try out Quicksilver Mixer, suddenly you've got a different workflow. You have to use material IDs, and material IDs are great. That's why the colors of the craft are vibrant like they are, because we don't care how they look in Blender. Now you can do all of
I
what
thought you just wanted a clown team.
true. um, but all of this can be done in Blender if you wanted to. I mean, you could hand paint them in Blender if you wanted to. One of the things that we've explored a little bit of is a decal work or decal, and
Yeah.
that's a very interesting interesting workflow because with decals you can have a lot of high resolution text or pipe work or something along those lines as an image printed on the surface of a model. The problem with using those is it doesn't allow a bespoke craft, and so
Mm.
we were exploring the different ways of texturing the craft, and we ended up reaching an impasse of techniques because you want to make all of the crafts unique to each individual.
Yes, I want the HSC um, delta, for example, to
Yeah.
look completely different from the worm delta. Not the same with a different delta, with a slightly different decal
Yes.
layout. Completely different.
So
Which
this would work absolutely marvelously for maybe a race. I'm going to say racing game, but any game where you just want to swap out the
let's say
team
the
name or
player
something.
gets one team, but you can customize within that team, or you get like medals or
Yeah,
awards or whatever it is that you
exactly.
can put on the craft. That would work great.
Yeah, definitely. That and it's interesting because now we've explored that, we've got another workflow that we can bring in and look at. And one of the things that Godot doesn't do natively at the moment, but I believe it is coming in 4.0, is an actual decal system. Because you can just have a plane basically slightly above the surface of your model, but it's much better if it's projected onto the surface of the model, full stop, and it then is rendered above. So there's no Z fighting; it's always rendered above.
Malacon fixed it.
You need to use bevels.
Um, I
Boop.
believe decal's actually a new node in Godot 4. I'm not sure, but I
Yes,
believe it is.
I have read or watched a video containing same information about it being a node. So that'd be really interesting to see how that
Hmm.
pans out. And decals could also be used, for instance, on a shop front. If you had a street like in Godot Getaway and you wanted different buildings to have different logos on them, essentially you could use decals to do that, and then there would be high resolution. You wouldn't have to be
It's assuming it works with grid map.
assuming it works with grid map. I wonder what happened to grid map in 4.0. That'd be interesting. Hmm. Yeah.
Well, grid map is an interesting node anyway
Yeah.
because it's it's a mesh instance array thing. Basically, it's going to take a whole bunch of meshes and turn them into a single mesh, which means it has to have specific information a specific way. And we discovered this quite early. You can't just put in a light source in a mesh instance or in a grid map. So we could absolutely put street lamps inside the mesh, but if we want them to have a light source in them, that won't work. You have to
Because a
find a
light
different way of connecting
source
them.
isn't a mesh.
It's not part of, you can have the
Yeah,
collision and you can have the mesh. That's all you can have.
yeah.
Um, so it'd be interesting to see if they go beyond that. I'm very interested in the new navigation stuff.
That'd be interesting if we start incorporating in the next God of course some AI,
Mm-hmm.
some pathfinding or something along those lines.
Yep.
So I wonder if it's because I use Mark Sharp and the baited Wevels. Yeah, the baited Wevels, the weighted normals. Sorry, the weighting of the bevels there. So yeah, perhaps using both of them caused an issue on
Could
export.
have been. Could have
Yeah.
been.
Yeah, we solved it in two ways. I'm happy with a 50 weight for it and not worry about it for the moment.
Yep.
It's
But I
one
am
of the,
interested to see, do you have those notes of what the Sentinel's going to look like? And do you want to share them here or should we put them on the Patreon?
I will have to redraw them, I think, because
You wrote Ruby
during the Christmas period, or rather, was it just before or during the Christmas period, I started having some interesting sound issues. Things were getting all crackly. I couldn't record at all, so I just wiped. It was something on the computer, something low level,
Oh, did
interrupting.
you get rid of all the notes?
And I think during that process, the notes were an add-on that I haven't reinstalled in Blender yet.
Might explain why. Okay, so this morning I was like, and did you make those changes on that craft? It's like, no, we don't have any changes. Yes, we did. Oh, right, we do.
Oh, crumbs!
I remember now.
I remember now. Never mind.
It was Christmas period with the kids.
Brain went fried, and it wasn't because of too much alcohol. That's for sure.
Well, one thing I want to talk about is Mikey and I were considering playing Sea of Thieves, which is currently on sale until tomorrow. So we both picked it up, and I just played through the tutorial. And there's a gameplay decision right at the beginning that I've forgotten about that I'm kind of fascinated by,
Yeah,
which is they have a really entertaining and well-made character customization thing, but you don't get to access it straight away. Instead, they randomly generate a bunch of pirates, and you can pick the one you like.
interesting.
And then later on, you can start adding things like peg legs and hooks and new
Yeah,
hairstyles and the rest of it, which I really love because it encourages you to pick a pirate that you can keep going till you find exactly one you like. But I'm like, okay, we'll see what they have. And the very first one I've got looked exactly like Granny Weatherwax from the Discworld books, if any of you know that. I was like, I'm having that one. I'm playing the bitter, evil, skinny looking old lady. That looks amazing.
that does sound fun. I haven't loaded it up yet.
Mikey, you're going to have to copy paste that invite because, again, the link isn't coming through.
Okay, there we go. Boop. So
Well done.
I will have to have a look and see
But I
why
really
certain things
like
don't come
the
through.
idea of random character generation. I know Rust did a thing where I think they created a character based on your Steam ID. So you just were given a character, and that's who you were.
That's okay, Daz. Welcome. Welcome
Hello,
to the
Des.
final quarter of an hour or so. How are
Yep,
you doing, by the way? Because you're up in Scotland at the moment. Not you, Daz.
Des is.
Yes.
Des, do you want to swap? You could be in Suffolk, I'll be in Scotland. It'd be fine. If you take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland instead of you. And then me and my true love will be there for Burns night. Uh,
Or something like that. I would have cut you short, but I was I was too entertained by it all.
It was like, I wonder where he's going with this.
Yep.
For you. Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. Sorry, yeah. You can continue.
Oh, what was I talking about? Oh, I really like this idea where you get given like a it's almost like you've drawn a handful of cards and which one of these do you want, and you can burn the hand a couple of times to get the one you like because they have so much character to them. Like I had two on there that looked like Granny Weatherwax and Nanny Og. If you don't know the Discworld novel, Granny Weatherwax is um this very granite filled, very skinny, bright blue eyes, very powerful witch who takes no nonsense and can't stand illusion and has a habit of shouting, "Tate so!" Um, whereas Nanny Og
I
is a
like
very
this.
is her best friend who um sings the hedgehog song, which is the hedgehog can never be buggered at all. He gets very drunk and likes to talk about her exploits with men when she was younger.
As you do.
But those were both like in those options, and those they look like such
Yeah.
characters as opposed to the standard. It was a time of war. I never asked for this. Swear to me, like that same old gravel voice character you get in every game. It just felt really good.
Yes.
So
The
I'll be interested
world
to see what Mikey comes
for
up
a
with.
lozenge.
It was a time of throat infections.
Yes, I can foresee much craziness going on at the moment I get aboard a boat.
Hmm. Not least of which because they give you a hurdy-gurdy.
We should probably stream this.
We probably should.
Nice.
Oh, if Tom Baker done Pratchett. Yeah, I could see that.
Hmm.
One of the things I like to play with, so I got a bunch of friends of mine recently into Pratchett in a major way. It's one of those things that, I mean, Terry Pratchett probably has more to do with my use of language and sense of humor than anyone else. And I read his books from the age of 14 right up to now. I mean, I'm still rereading them all the time. Um, but one of the games I like to play is who would play this character? Like, who would play Granny Weatherwax? Who would play Sam Vimes? Who would play Captain Carrot? I can see Tom Baker in there. Poor Mikey is just like, I don't want to tell them I haven't read the books.
I haven't read the books. I think this is common knowledge by now.
So the downside to us streaming, us starting out and doing the tutorial and doing the rest of it, is you go once you've done the tutorial, you get put into this open world, and there are two sides of ships. There's a 2-player one and a 4-player one. And if we meet any other pirates, we can't guarantee they're not just going to rob us blind and sink us,
Yeah.
or that Mikey won't, as a random example, fire himself out of a cannon.
You could do that.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, and I can see four people are attacking us. What are you doing, Mike? Where are you?
I'm playing the hurdy-gurdy at them.
Wait a minute. It's
Tom Baker is narrator, I can see. You know who I don't think should be the narrator? Nigel Planer, who did most of the audiobooks until someone else took over. That man did not understand those stories. So yeah, we could do it with just the two of us in a 2-player craft. I'm sure we'd be fine. I suspect we'd have a little bit more fun doing the NPC content than the PC content.
yeah.
Or we could try and find 2 other sailors and try 4 people.
I could buy a bottle of spiced rum.
I could try very hard not to get all academic about what I know about the historical golden age of piracy and how it relates to the Jacobite rebellion.
And yeah, I think that would work. I'll get a bottle of spiced rum, and we can and a hurdy-gurdy, a real one. I'll just sit there on stream playing.
I want a hurdy-gurdy in the worst way. If you guys don't know what a hurdy-gurdy is, it's a medieval instrument that
It's a mechanical violin.
Kind of. So you have a keyboard with frets, and then you have a turner, and the turner rubs a wheel against the drone string, which is a constant. And then when you
Yeah.
press the keys down, you get another note. So you get one note constantly and then a second note. And you can get some amazing stuff. There's a guy on YouTube who does metal songs with the hurdy-gurdy. He has an electric hurdy-gurdy.
There's a female musician as well, and she's got some really nice stuff. She plays this gorgeous dark green
Singing it.
hurdy-gurdy.
Yep.
Absolutely phenomenal. Just on a musician level, but at the same time, it's a hurdy-gurdy.
And hurdy-gurdy is just fun to say.
Yes. I looked at how much they are, and I was like, nope.
They're like 400 quid.
Oh, I've been
Now,
looking in the
there
wrong
is a
place.
kit where you can buy that you can make your own hurdy-gurdy,
Yeah,
but it's not for playing,
it's an
which
ornament.
completely defeats the point as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, and it need an accordion. What's the small accordion called? I can't remember.
Travesty.
Travesty. Yeah, could have got me. If you used a different word, you could have got me. I think it begins with a C. I can't remember.
Not saying that on air.
Concertina. This was.
Okay. That's not where my mind was going.
Oh,
You're
fine.
welcome, Mikey.
Can I put? Can it be a mixture of the Fall Guys as well? And I can drag you to the cannon and shove you in it.
I think you have to fire someone else at the cannon. There are times when it's helpful to do that. Like
You
when you
I-
need to get, you could like throw someone into the skeleton compound so they can take out the cannoneers.
Could you do it to board enemy ships? I suppose if your aim was good enough.
Yep. Of course, if you miss, then the sharks eat you.
Yes. I'm definitely up for that.
Okay.
That'd be a lot of fun.
We'll figure out time we can do it, and we'll see if we can stream it because it would be fun to stream from the start.
Yes, it would.
I need to figure out how to use their Microsoft Xbox Live thing so we can actually play with friends as opposed to
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to
random
figure
people,
that out.
which would be no fun at all.
I will definitely try not to do a pirate accent the entire time.
Pirates didn't have that accent. That came from an actor in the 1920s who had a Cornish accent.
I don't care.
Pirates don't only talk like this.
What that
Arr,
explains.
get off my land! Arr!
That will explain why pirates sound like they're from Cornwall.
Because this one actor who was so good at playing pirates did that accent when he played pirates, and that's what everyone thinks pirates sounded like. Despite the fact that many of them were from London or York or Barbados or
Yes, I don't believe for 1 minute that pirates all had the same accent. Yar.
yes, in fact, there's a really good book / audiobook called The Golden Age of Piracy that I recommend if you're interested in the history. Because you got this thing where pirates are like this cult folk hero thing, and they're all swashbuckling heroes. And think, surely they were just carjackers on the water. Like, we don't do that with modern pirates. And then you come to think of them as just thugs on the water. And then you read the history. It's like, no, most of them were actually class rebels or rebels against slavery or the empire. And some of them were like Jacobite rebels. And there's like this loose conglomeration that made a nation. And life on a pirate ship was really weird. So, yeah. Like, it's a democracy in all cases except for battle, where the captain has the final word. Otherwise, he's just a crewmate. He doesn't get his own cabin. He gets a slightly bigger share of the fee. Everyone just gets an equal share. Captain gets 1.5 shares. But it's all branding.
I'm learning.
Yeah.
Welcome to Pirate Talk.
Talk like a Cornish accent. Exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think we've done well this evening. I think we should wrap it up shortly because I do want to hear what is going to happen. I don't actually want to hear it. I'd rather just close all the doors and windows, stay at home, which is probably what we're going to be told to do.
Right. I think we should cut this. No, we should end this thing because I need the restroom.
That's absolutely fine. So
I've
thank
drunk.
you everybody for joining us. I hope you have a fantastic new year. Mine has started really well. Jan is a dragon, has a dragon.
I was a professor, you know.
We, yes,
And yeah, we'll let you guys know if we
yeah,
stream our piratings.
yeah. We'll book it in and we'll do an announcement on Discord to let
Yeah,
everybody know that we're
as we
going to.
float around on the incompetent, because we have to have a good name for our boat.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Thank you everybody for joining us this evening, and we'll see.
Bye.
Bye. Sorry. Bye. Arr.
Arr,
Arr.
arr, arr. Get off my daughter.
What?